The Hate You Give Little Infants Fucks Everyone book called The Hate You Give, written by Angie Thomas. Today I'm going to be giving you a little summary and my opinion and how I relate to this book. So please watch this video after this short commercial break, and I'll see you guys when you get back. You guys know, I have a series called Read It. In this series today, we are going to be talking about the book called The Hate You Give. This is a phenomenal book. And that little thing I said in the beginning, which, excuse my language, but that is what The Hate You Give stands for. Angie Thomas did a phenomenal job writing this book. When you're reading it, you really do feel like you are there with the character. The description is amazing, and it does so much more for you than the movie could ever do, in my opinion. It moves you emotionally, physically, and just in every aspect. When you're reading it, there's such little details that literally sometimes you may not catch the first time you read the book, but those little details just add on to the story, like, wow, I relate to that, or wow, that's beautiful. This and this are tied together, even though this is in the second chapter and this is in the 8th chapter. I feel like this book is, I was once talking to a teacher of mine who was thinking about adding this book to her teaching curriculum. And I would say that that's a very good idea, because there are so many people who, I know, like the school that I went to was predominantly white, and I think those kids would have had no idea of what actually goes on and the situations that, we as black people can deal with and have dealt with and are still dealing with. And this book would be such an eye-opener because it's modern. It's not like, oh, this is something that happened in the past. No, this is still happening. It could have happened yesterday, it could happen tomorrow. Now I'm going to go ahead and give you a little overview and summary of the book as a whole. It starts off with a 16-year-old girl named Star. She meets her childhood best friend who she hasn't talked to in a while. It appears he has went down a wrong path, maybe is selling some stuff, but she's not sure. There's a shooting at a party. He says, girl, let me drive you home. They're driving home. Khalil, the best friend, has done nothing wrong, but they get pulled over. He's like, why are you pulling me over? No, I'm not giving you my ID until you tell me why you're pulling me over. And the cop couldn't tell him that. So he says, you know what, you're being defiant, step out of the car. Khalil steps out of the car, and he leans back into the car to ask Star if she's okay. What does the cop do? He gets scared and shoots him because he thought the hairbrush was a gun, which is something we've seen multiple occasions in real life. Just here in Sacramento, where I live, a police officer thought a cell phone was a gun. And when Khalil is shot and killed and left on the ground to bleed, they didn't even help him. He just kept yelling, stay on the ground, stay on the ground, telling Star, get away from him. Star is now left with having multiple nightmares of seeing him die and seeing her other childhood best friend get shot in a drive-by shooting when she was younger. Now at the age of 16, she has seen 2 murders, both of those murders being her best friends. Now for the rest of the book, we will see how Star is dealing with the PTSD of seeing 2 murders and being the sole witness, while also trying to hide her identity, while also being threatened by police officers because they don't want her to speak out, while also her uncle, her favorite uncle, who was like a father figure to her, being a police officer and feeling like he could be defending the police officer who shot and killed Khalil, but also not really feeling like that he could do that because that's her uncle. And dealing with the fact that she lives a double life, which is not as glamorous as Hannah Montana made it seem. She has to go and live inside of her neighborhood, which is, predominantly black, which people would consider to be the ghetto. That's where she lives, but from 7:30 a.m. to 3 p.m. she goes to a predominantly white school where she's Star, the laid-back, chill, cool black girl. You know how when you go to a white school and you're the only black person, so you're automatically cool? Well, that's what she was. As we go through this book, Star comes to a conclusion that the only way to stop this cycle and to try to do anything about the black community being so abused by law enforcement is to speak out about it. So what does she do? First of all, she had a friend who was white and was racist and was saying Khalil was a thug anyways, he was gonna die anyways, get killed anyways, he just needed to get killed. Which once again I can say, here in Sacramento I was listening to the radio and a woman came on the radio and said the same exact thing about Stephen Clark. So that's how we know that these situations and these scenarios are real, which leads me back to why I believe that schools should add this book to their curriculum, because a lot of white kids don't know that this is real life. And a lot of them do know and choose to be oblivious to it. So, and then some of them know and choose not to be oblivious to it, but you know what I mean. Anyways, she realizes that she needs to speak out. So right now she's left with, just saying, hey, that was my best friend who got killed. What do I do in this situation? She's having nightmares every single night. She's afraid of speaking out. But by the end, she does what's right. And I think you know exactly what that is, but I'm not going to fully tell you what it is because I want you to read the book. It's an amazing, phenomenal book. And now I want to go into how I related to this book and how I thought this book was just groundbreaking to read. I've read this book over 3 times. It's beautiful. And another thing that I do want to say is that one of the main reasons why she fully speaks out is because the grand jury decided not to indict Officer 115, the one who shot and killed Khalil. They first of all gave him a paid leave, which is what police officers normally get after killing a black person. And then when he went to court, they seen him as basically not guilty. The news often portrayed him as a loving man who loved his family, a great son who loved to go fishing. Meanwhile, Khalil was just a thug. The black young kid who they believed sold drugs. Was that ever needed? No. He was dead. But that's one of the main reasons why Star said I need to speak out about this. Because why are they portraying this cop as the innocent man when he was the only person who held a gun? He was the only threat. He's the only one who had any sense of power in that situation. Okay, you guys, what's up? Sorry if things look a little different. Maybe they don't. My camera died, so I had to take a break and let it charge. But now we're gonna go ahead and move on into how I related to this book and why it spoke to me. And it spoke to me for the reason of Star lives like a double life where she goes to Star lives a double life where, she goes to school with majority white people and they just don't understand the same life that she knows. They don't understand the struggle and just what it's like to be. And that's kind of how it was with me through elementary school, middle school, high school. Majority of the schools that I went to were full of white kids who didn't understand anything. And it's so crazy to go to a school with people who, in middle school had never pumped gas. High school, middle school, kids who didn't know what an eviction was. Like, it was just like 2 different worlds. And once you get in those worlds, you kind of get caught up in, what I'm trying to say, living the life. So when I'm at the white school, I get caught up in it. So it's almost like I don't know what that stuff is either. Because if I talk about it, it's like they don't know what it is, so what's the point of it? And it's almost like I'm living in a little bubble. But then I go home to something completely different. And it kind of does give you a little bit of an identity crisis. Like, I don't understand. Am I not black enough? But at this school, I'm too black. Or, literally, going to a white school, you run the chance of being too black at the school. But then when you go to your actual neighborhood, you're like, you're not black enough. So it gives you an identity crisis. And that's pretty much one of the main reasons why I decided to come to Clark. Because I was just like, I want to be surrounded by black people. I'm just surrounded by different types of black people. I just want to get to know my people. I recommend that you read this book. It's an amazing, phenomenal book, but it does touch on some very touchy topics, some emotional topics. It can make you cry. It's definitely one of those books that make you feel something. So I would say make sure you're in the correct headspace before you read this book. I know finals week can be stressful. in its finals week right now. So I wouldn't go out necessarily and start reading this book right now, because it can take a toll on you. It can take a weight. The first time I read the book, I had to keep taking breaks because I was like, oh, that's like emotional, you know? But yeah, so just read the book. And if you've already watched the movie, literally the book is kind of basically different. There are some characters in the book that were not, in the movie. So go ahead and read it. And also, if you guys see little fruit flies flying around, I'm a new plant mom, okay? On my desk is a plant, like right here. So I'm learning, you know, and if you guys have any like remedies to get rid of them, but not necessarily like murder them or kill them. I mean, if I have to, I'll do it because it gets on my nerves, but you know, let a sister know. But thank you so much for watching this video, and peace out, you guys.